Good evening and welcome to the 2020 Candidates Forum. I'm Denise Domke, the President and CEO of the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is pleased to be able to continue to offer opportunity for committed local residents, each of them willing to serve our community in elected office, the chance to respectfully explain their positions on issues important to both residents and the business community. Tonight's moderator is our 2020 Board Chair, Chelsea Minor. Chelsea serves as Corporate Director of Public Affairs for Raley's, a legacy business here in West Sacramento with several large operations here. Chelsea also serves as the company's spokesperson and handles external affairs and government relations. She's no stranger to political issues impacting our region and our state. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for your engagement in this community tradition.
Good evening, West Sacramento residents, our neighbors, and of course, our loyal business community. I'm excited to serve as the moderator for tonight's Candidates Forum. I want to take a moment and welcome all of our viewers on Facebook for joining us remotely this evening. I hope all of you stick around. We have a full agenda with lots of candidates and important discussion topics. Tonight's forum will feature candidates for the newly drawn districts for the Washington Unified School District. You will hear from candidates from Area 2, 3, and 4. And later on this evening, you'll also hear for our West Sacramento mayoral candidates. Please note, for Areas 1 and 5, those districts will be voted on in November of 2022. I'm going to start first today backwards with Area 4, which includes parts of Southport all the way to Tower Bridge. This includes Linden Loop, Westmore Oaks, Ironwork, and the Bridge District neighborhoods. Elementary schools in this area include Westmore Oaks and Southport Elementary School. There's only one candidate for Area 4, our current board member, Jackie Thu Wong Wong. She's asked, given that she's only an individual candidate, that I read a statement on her behalf. My name is Jackie Thu Wong Wong, and I am your Washington Unified School District 4 candidate. I'm grateful and honored to have served you for the last 4 years, and I'm humbled to have the opportunity to continue to serve the children and families of West Sacramento. Even in the midst of the pandemic, we need to focus on a robust educational experience for our children. We must continue to expand our partnership to ensure that our students have the tools they need to thrive in any career that they choose. I'm looking forward to working together to ensure that we build better back together and even stronger than ever. My parents brought me to this country as a refugee child from Vietnam. My first language was not English, and hard work and good quality schools helped me to graduate college and find a good job. I'd like to pay this forward and help the next generations of West Sacramentans. I will continue to work for your support, trust, and hope to always earn your vote for the school board. Thank you, Jackie, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in the coming year. Now, let's transition to our in-person candidates here for Washington Unified School District Area 2. This includes part of Bright, Elkhorn Village, Washington, and Westfield Village Elementary School. Let me introduce you to the 3 candidates. The candidates' order on stage was randomly selected prior to tonight's forum. Starting with candidates from my left, Alvaro Venegas. In the middle, Danny Theracle. And on my far right, Jamison Parker. Thank you all for being here tonight. Let's start by going over the rules for tonight's forum. I want to start by reminding you this is a forum and not a debate. We intend to ask you thoughtful questions and receive thoughtful responses. I ask that you please direct your answers to the audience and not your fellow candidates, and please do not interrupt or make sounds while the other candidates are speaking. I'm going to rotate the order in which I ask candidates so that each of you will have a chance to answer first. I will indicate to you how much time is allowed per question, and we do have a timekeeper here who will give you a 30-second warning, a 15-second warning, which will tell you that you need to start wrapping things up, and the timekeeper will hold up a stop sign when your time is expired. If necessary, I will politely ask you and interrupt you and let you know that you've exceeded your time. To help our voters watching this forum, we need to draw contrasts between each of you. We encourage you to be specific when answering the questions, offering clear solutions, and avoid repeating what has already been said. When necessary, I may ask you for a brief clarification that will help our audience better understand maybe what your point was. Those are the ground rules. Are we ready to get started? Great. I'm going to begin asking each of you to give us an opening statement. You'll have 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself to our online audience, provide some background about yourself, and explain why you're running for Washington Unified School District. Let's begin with candidate one, candidate Venegas.
Hi, I'm Alvaro Venegas, and I want to start by thanking God, thanking the universe for the opportunity to just be in this position to represent West Sacramento, specifically Area 2. I want to thank every single parent and educator and student who has been strong during these times. It is difficult times. We are in different times, and it is that passion that is driving this campaign. I am here honored but also humbled because of all the stories that I've heard from my neighbors. So before I'm a candidate, I am your neighbor, and I'm running to represent our youth and to represent our struggle, make sure that our pain is heard, and that we actually drive towards solutions, towards better days, towards making sure that we are providing an equitable approach and community to those in need. I am Alvaro Venegas. I hope that you all see something valuable. Whether or not your vote is for me, know that I'm serious when I say that I am a resource. I am your neighbor, and I am here for full support to make sure that we continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Theracle.
I want to first by thanking the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce for putting this event together, and thank you all at home for attending this Facebook Live. My name is Danny Theracle, and I'm running to be your Area 2 Governing Board Member on the Washington Unified School District Board of Trustees. I've lived in West Sacramento now for 16 years, and I'm an alumni of our district. I went to Westmore Oaks Elementary, and I graduated from River City High School, class of 2015. Some of you may remember me when I ran for school board in 2016, and just like then, my campaign is about making sure we do what's best for our students, making sure that we have an equitable, accessible, and supportive learning community for our kids, especially now during this pandemic. Being at the first single-member district election, it's important we elect someone who not only understands what our kids are going through, but also has experience working in education. I formerly served as president of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, where I represented over 2.1 million students at the state level, fighting for equity, funding, basic needs like food and housing, and financial aid reform. We know that it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm all grown up now, and I'm ready to give back to my village. I'm proud to have the support of Norma Alcala, a current school board member, Martha Guerrero, our current city councilwoman, and groups from the Sacramento Central Labor Council and the West Sacramento Teachers Association. I humbly ask your vote so I can be your Area 2 representative on the Washington Unified School District Board of Trustees so that I can continue fighting for our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Parker.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the West Sac Chamber, and thank you to the candidates for being here, and thank you to my fiance for really being my support through this process. I'm Jamison Parker, running for the school board seat. I'm running for a couple reasons, but I want to share a little story. West Sacramento really embraced me and my family. When my fiance and I bought our house here, and it was met with warmness and kindness. We, the first week, my neighbor was reaching over the back fence to pass me a plate of tacos and a beer. And that's the environment that West Sacramento is. That's the community that we are. We're here to support each other, to lift each other up, and come together as a community. I've also heard concerns from families as I've talked to them. They're afraid about their future and their children's future. They need to have a representative that will fight to make sure that our students are provided with the resources, our families are provided with the resources that they deserve, that our schools, our teachers, our staff have the investments and the tools that they need to provide a quality learning environment. No matter what neighborhood you grow up, you shouldn't be dictated, no matter where you grow up, shouldn't dictate what investments that you get, that you are afforded an opportunity to be successful, and that your child can have the most success and be taught with the best learning environment. And that's why I'm running for school board.
Thank you. Appreciate all of you for your opening statements. Let's get into the nitty-gritty and the questions. For these questions, a majority of them you will have 1 minute to answer unless I indicate otherwise. And Danny, we'll start with you for this question. You ready? Why do you feel that you are the best candidate to address the current and future challenges facing Washington Unified School District?
Absolutely. As an alumni, I've had the possibly the same teachers as some of your kids has. And, I definitely can relate to some of the troubles that our children are going through this time. Especially with my last position, serving in my position as president of the Student Senate. I was president during the COVID pandemic first began. So, as a leader on a statewide level, it was my job to make sure that those concerns and needs from our local communities were heard on a statewide level in order to address those with the resources and support needed to get through this online and distance education. Right now, it's hurting a lot of families. And, I can sympathize as a student myself. We need to do more. It can't be solved with just Chromebooks and hotspots. We've seen internet access already not be so reliable in this last couple days. We have to do more, and because this pandemic has hurt a lot of low income and people of color, and that is what the majority of our district and area 2 is.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Parker.
I'm the best candidate for this position because we need somebody with experience and that can come into this office and hit the ground running. We're in such a dramatic period right now. Our environment is in turmoil. We have to provide a quick response as we try to integrate back into our school community, and we need somebody that can fight for the resources to bring those investments to our schools so our students are welcomed and being able to provide themselves with the best education. We need somebody that has worked through projects and supported the community at large, helping support, building trails that connect our schools, that support our neighborhoods by repaving our roads, that invest in, resources like via rideshare. We need candidates that have that ability, and those are all things that I've done and will do as a school board member as well.
Appreciate that. Candidate Venegas.
The reason I am the best candidate is in my 9 years of living in West Sacramento, 5 of those years I've been a small business owner, and I provide services to schools already. I am the only individual that get called coach, and the reason why is because the youth calls me coach. I have a relationship with these students, and if it's about them, then we must pay attention to that. Is knowing that there is a greater need. These parents are tired of not being heard, and it is specific to Area 2. I am bilingual, and the idea is understanding that it won't be a one-man job, but it will require the resources and the gifts and the talents that our community has. And I believe I'm the man that can direct us in the right direction.
Great. Thank you. The next question's a little complex, so you'll have a minute and a half to answer. That's a long one, so bear with me as I get through it. In July, the Washington Unified School District announced that the 2020-2021 school year would begin 100% virtually. Many of you talked about some of the challenges, of course, related to the COVID pandemic. Given, of course, though, that some of our area schools in nearby communities have opened, with also understanding and respecting that ultimately the choice will be up to Yolo County, as a school board member, do you believe that the district should continue remote learning through the end of the year? If yes, and you think that people should remain virtual, how will you ensure that resources and support are provided equitably to all students? And if no, that you think the students should go back to school, how will you ensure the safety of both the students and the teachers? We'll start with you,
Awesome.
Candidate Parker.
Thank you very much for that. I think that the school board has done as good a job as they could possibly have done up to this point with the resources that they've been given. I've been talking with neighbors, and I have an incredible story with talking to Christina, who lives in my neighborhood. She's 61 years old and a grandma. She has 2 kids that she's teaching from home and 1 special needs. Families have incredible pressure that's being put on them from a learning experience, having to be the ones that are teaching their own kids. Students need those resources, and their families are there to support them, but the teachers and our staff in the schools are the ones that can provide that best education. I would like to see us continue to work towards opening our schools, having those in-class person, because there's nothing like a teacher being able to teach in person, but I think our decisions need to be rooted in science and public health, making sure that we are using our best judgment to protect the safety of our children, our staff, our families, our community as a whole, and that's where I'm at.
As a follow-up to that, then, what do you think is necessary to continue? So it sounds like it would be rooted in science that you haven't made a decision. Well, then, if they do remain remote, what would they need to be doing?
So I think what we're doing now with providing the Chromebooks from home to those resources for our students, that we have hotspots that are set up for our students and have really support systems put in place for those families that need attention. They need additional resources, the support from a bilingual perspective, the support from additional technology, that we're providing them with those support systems where they're at, because that's the most important part. They need to be supported from their house, their community, and their schools.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Venegas.
So I've had conversations with neighbors, I've had conversations with the school board, and I've also had time to visit both Alcorn Elementary as well as Westfield, and seeing the great work that every educator is doing is amazing. Of course, safety is first, and I'm also talking about mental health. It is important that we listen to the voices, and the voices are ready from what they're expressing. They're ready to go back. Of course, I would look to implement a safety first, meaning that rollout would come in a form of becoming a resource hub, making sure that we get accustomed to visiting our school campuses again. Even if it is outdoor for the meantime, our businesses that have already, in Sacramento, have already demonstrated that. And I believe that if we can continue to put safety first and put our youth first, we can get back to a safe campus for all.
What does safety look like to you as we think about students coming back on campus?
So one, I do believe in masks. Two, I do also believe in periods of cleaning. So making sure that we're not getting back to maybe the 8-hour day, but we are keeping our social distance. We are making sure that maybe like track schools, making sure that there's not the amount of students on campus at the same time. There's many different ideas on the table right now that I've already heard, and that we can definitely implement.
Great, thank you.
I believe that we should continue to stay online until such time that it is safe. And when it is time to safe, I am happy to join that conversation and how we can start making that transition back to in-person instruction. We have to listen to our county and state health officials, make sure we're making those informed decisions. And when we do go back into in-person, I'm lucky enough to have served on a task force for the California Community College Chancellor's Office that safely advised the reopening of college campuses throughout the state. A lot of the recommendations I see that we could probably implement here if it happened to be so that we do that. Some of those recommendations were, half-capacity classrooms, utilizing outdoor spaces and spaces in classrooms that are not already in use, and things like that. But back to making sure that we provide equity and support for our students while we're online. I think it's important to understand that school has now shifted from in-classroom to at home. So it's best that we not just support the child and what they're doing as a student, but support the family as a whole. The family support is going to be instrumental to make sure that the student succeeds as well. So it's making sure that our parents and siblings understand what's going on with schooling. It's going to be making sure that their mental health is in check as well, because we don't know what our families are going through. Some of them may have lost their jobs. Some of them may be struggling to put food on the table. So we have to be able to look and see what those issues are and address those as a district.
Great, thank you. So as a follow-up to that question, let's just stay with COVID for a second, knowing that we are continuing to remain virtual. We've all heard that the challenges are with parents and children alike, right? There's competing pressures and those types of things. Besides the tangible things that we've talked about around internet access or Chromebooks or what those tools might look like, let's talk a little bit about resources, right? What are those things that we can provide from afar to both parents and students to be successful? I'll stay in this order, though, and we'll start with you, Candidate Parker.
Yeah, I think it's about addressing the support, emotional support, mental health support of the families of the students. I know personally when you're cooped up from COVID and then you have the smoke from the fires, that's an extreme burden on us as humans and what we feel and the challenge and anxiety that we're pressured with. We need to support our community, all of us together, to be able to provide that ear, to provide that open line of communication for those families to know that we're here, we're here to support you. We're here to work with you to see what your need is, so we are able to best meet and best address what your main concerns are, because that's the biggest thing we can do as a community, is listen to each other, support each other, and figure out how to lift each other up.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Venegas.
So in the last 5 weeks or so, I've really been focusing on the resources that we have, such as our businesses, our small businesses that continue to keep their doors open and continue to reach out to again, and I'm going to say this with full heart, our neighbors. This is who we're looking after. It's not a time where our title comes first, but it is a time where our neighbors come first. And I would look at our classified staff. When I went to go visit these 2 schools, I've seen our classified staff on campus doing their best to be a resource. But also there's many people that are volunteers in the community that are looking to see how they can best help. If we can get organized, we definitely have what we need in Sacramento to continue to move forward.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Theracle.
So I definitely think that we have to look at different organizations and agencies that are already tackling the same issues that we are doing. We know that there's going to be a budget shortfall, so the more collaboration we can do, the better for our community and district as a whole. I think we have to look at the different food banks. I know we have those food drives already present, but making sure that they reach to the families that truly need them. Offering mental health counseling, I think, is something that we definitely need to have to support the mental state of our families and our students. I would definitely think we should have information going out that can talk about some of the state assistance programs during this time as well, especially if families can't get unemployment. Where else can they turn to get financial stability? And then also, most importantly, continued outreach. We have to continue to checking in with our families, continue to check in with our students, continue to check in with our teachers and classified professionals to see how they're doing, so that we can continue supporting each other the best we can.
Great. Thank you. So shifting gears a little bit, other than managing COVID, what do you believe are the top 3 issues facing Washington Unified School District? And if elected, how will you go about addressing each of those issues? And you'll have 2 minutes for this answer. We'll start with you, Candidate Venegas.
Thank you. So the top 3 issues is we're looking at equity, and I know we are looking to represent the entire school board, but we are a voice to our area. One of the biggest challenges is mental health and social emotional learning when it comes to our children and when it comes to our staff. So the first one is really looking at educating the whole child, making sure that even through virtual platform learning, we're still taking care of mindfulness and still making sure that our emotions are intact and we're continuing to feel cared for, making sure that our students feel cared for. Second is the way our professional developments are brought to our teachers. I believe that the engagement level can be picked up to make sure that the teachers feel supported. They're in the front lines doing the work. Our classified staff are in the front lines doing the work, making sure that they are being heard to tailor the need of every single campus. I think it's important right now. And third is going to be family engagement, is making sure that our family feels that they can bring value. And not so much, I've heard of so many families that are in need, but I've also heard of many families that are looking for ways to give and are looking for ways to help. So I believe that opening those lines of communication, whether it be I speak Spanish, whether it be that going out there and really reaching out to these families, but I believe that this is how we can continue to come together and move forward.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Theracle.
I would say that moving forward, aside from COVID, we should definitely take a look at increasing student success, especially as it relates to Area 2. I see that as an issue looking at the data reports from our state. Our schools don't perform as well as our other schools in our district, and that is something that is a concern for me. I think that we have to look at possibly consider looping, which is an idea that essentially the teacher stays with the students more than 1 year. It builds longer relationships between the student and the teacher and the families as well, and provides a better support structure for student success. I think we should consider expanding and creating learning communities like Puente and Emoja that specifically target our disproportionately impacted students who are Latinx and African American and bring them to our high school. And I would also like to see us engage our community a lot more and build a community that supports each other. I see our schools as not just areas of education and learning institution. I think of them as also possible satellite community centers. You know, we have a community center here in West Sacramento. They offer active aging programs for senior citizens. They offer health and wellness classes like Emoja and healthy cooking night out. I think it's very possible we could try to get some of those programs directly to our community using via our schools. I think that would absolutely bring our community together and support our students in the best ways.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Parker.
I think it starts with going beyond the classroom. I think we really need to be looking at how do we build healthy communities. That's something that I do personally. It's how do you make sure you have well-programmed parks? How do you make sure you have public spaces that increase community interaction, and how do you provide those investments for neighborhoods to feel supported? It's about access to healthy, quality foods. You know, we have a extremely robust urban agricultural scene. How do we continue to lean on our partners like the Center for Land-Based Learning and the Yellow Food Bank and our farms here in West Sacramento to make sure we're investing those into our schools and our neighborhoods, and that our students, our families are provided with those resources? It's about a good transportation system that works for everyone, a safe transportation system that works for everyone, building better bike infrastructure, making sure roads are paved so that students feel comfortable and families feel comfortable knowing that they can get their kid to school safely. I think that's where we need to start. I think then we need to look at what our neighborhood schools are lacking. It's not unknown that Westfield Village, Elkhorn Village are some of the most dilapidated campuses that we have in our school district. And we need somebody that is going to be focused and have the attention to really invest in our resources into those communities, into those facilities, because that's what our students deserve. That's what our families deserve. That's what our teachers deserve. Our board has done an incredible job bringing forth a plan to help from an equity lens, from a visual and performing arts perspective, and we need to now implement that and make sure that we're bringing those resources the way we said we are, and that we're accountable for that. And that leads into the last thing. I think it's so important that we have a strong governance. Working together, we're going to have a new superintendent coming in the next year. I've had great conversations with Superintendent Luna. We're going to need to make sure we're hitting the ground running as a full school board and an administration to make sure our students are supported.
Thank you. You actually just led right into the next question, which is that Superintendent Luna has announced her retirement in January 2021. The board has hired a national firm to search for our new superintendent. And as a board member, what qualities will you be looking for in the new superintendent? So we'll start with you, candidate Theracle.
Absolutely. I think one of the most important things, especially today, to look for in a candidate is someone who is equity-focused and student-centered. We're here together as a community and as a school district for one reason only, and it's to make sure that our kids are supported and that they succeed. So having someone who is equity and student-centered focus is going to be an important factor and who is going to lead and manage our school in the day-to-day operations.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Parker?
I think I'm the only candidate up on this stage that has had an opportunity to sit down with Superintendent Luna in this election cycle and talk to her. You know, we need somebody that's going to be a partner, that can be an implementer, that can really focus on letting us set the policies, our guidance, and providing an equitable environment, but being the one that we can task to really focus that can build the staff around them to really roll out the projects that we want them to, because that is going to be so important as a new superintendent coming in. We have so much work to get done, and that we have somebody that can really focus and be responsive and work with us as a board to implement our policies is going to be crucial, I think, for the next superintendent.
Great. Candidate Venegas.
So in the last 12 years, I've done a lot of work with school staff. I've done work with the military. And something that I learned from them was to look for this in my partners and in my neighbors is the word LEAD and the acronym of LEAD. The first thing that I would look for is a superintendent that is willing to listen and still learn. at such a high position, remaining a student of life is important to me, making sure that they're willing to learn and willing to listen. Second would be the E, which is empathize. Empathize with the community that we're actually serving, and really look to be aligned. That's the A, is alignment. How the vision actually benefits all and not just some. And lastly is the letter D, which is decide. Not be afraid to make a decision. It is difficult. It is difficult to be in a position of leadership, but it is important that we don't put the decision off because it impacts so many.
Great, thank you. Sticking with the superintendent as a topic, let's flash forward 1 year after the superintendent has been hired. You, picture this, you are a board member. What things will you be looking for, and how will you measure the superintendent's success? We'll start with you, Candidate Parker.
Thank you. I think that we have a lot on our plate. By that point, a year later, I hope that we're in an in-class setting again, and we're going to have to set very clear metrics of what success looks like for integrating students back into our schools, and how are we really starting to get ourselves back on the page that we left off. We need to make sure we're starting to set clear parameters, clear guidelines on what we're expecting from our success from our schools and our student learning. What do we want to see from a test? How do we make sure that we've invested in our schools from the equity lens that we're facing with Measure Z, and what that will look like from a facility perspective, and really holding the superintendent accountable for implementing those pieces of what we've outlined in those plans.
Is there a specific metric that you would say you want to benchmark and see success with?
I would say that it comes down to what does our capacities look like in our schools? What do the students? What's the attendance rate look like? What emotional support do our students feel? Really getting the pulse of what our students' concerns are, our family concerns are, and use that as our point to see if we're addressing the need of those families, those students, by whatever the superintendent is implementing.
Great, thank you. Candidate Venegas.
So the first metric I would look at is the relationships in the neighborhoods, is how many people have maybe had a conversation or know the superintendent by name. That is extremely important, and it speaks to the taking action and really reaching out. The second thing I would look at is how supported our teachers are feeling, how empowered they are feeling, and excited to actually be teachers. It is important to have that empowerment and inspiration coming from our most important people, which is our educators. And lastly, I would look at the students. Are they proud of the school that they attend? Are they excited to go to school? And the metrics I would look at is our attendance. That it is extremely important that we take account of every single student and make sure that they are feeling welcome to their campus. The last thing I would look at is our suspension rates and making sure that we're actually putting restorative practices in place to redirect our students that are most in need.
Great, thank you. Candidate Theracle.
Yeah, I would really like to see that our superintendent a year from now is really starting to focus on the recovering from the learning loss due to our online education process. And it's different from, achievement gap, and so I really hope that our superintendent is active in trying to make sure that we recuperate from that. I definitely want to see them work with our teachers, our classified, our students, and parents to gauge that relationship, build that relationship, and see how they can work together to address some of those concerns since COVID has passed, assuming that it has passed. And I also think, and I'm hoping if we Measure Z passes, that they are working on fiscal accountability. I think I've heard concerns from members in the community, and they want to see us make sure that we hold ourselves accountable fiscally to our budget, especially because COVID is going to affect our budget as a whole.
Great, thank you. The next few questions really predominantly hits on some of the business relationships. As the chamber, it's very important to us that we have a relationship with not only the superintendent, but the school board as we think about success for our community. In your opinion, do you believe that the school district and the business community should work collaboratively together? And if so, how do you envision that partnership to look like? What does that that partnership look like for you? So we will start with candidate Venegas.
Most definitely, as a small business owner, that my services are to provide services for our schools and actually West Sacramento as a whole. So seeing when there's businesses and educators come together, we can create anything from career pathways to really mentorship. I think that's where it really falls in line to make sure that our students are ready in the 21st century, are ready to move and decide on their passion and being able to see that it is possible to overcome the struggles and really succeed in life.
Great, thank you. Candidate Theracle.
Yes, I would love to see us work closely together, provide internships for our students, on-the-job trainings, and also help our students understand what career exploration looks like, exposing them to a variety of opportunities to understand what their interests are and provide them with opportunities to engage in those interests and explore them further.
Great. Candidate Parker.
I think that our small businesses are the backbone of our community. I think it's really important that we're building upon programs like what the city of West Sacramento and the school district have put forward with the Home Run program. Investing in our internship programs with our local businesses and bringing that into our schools so students have that exposure, that they're able to get a whole host of life skills and professional skills and development as they go through their education, so they have opportunity to learn who they are, what they want to do. It's building internship programs with our local business. It's building apprenticeship programs with our local trades, giving individuals their own opportunity to figure out what they want to do, but know that whatever choice they choose, they'll have good quality jobs, because that's what it comes down to, is supporting our students with any path that they want to take to make sure that they are supported and that they can have a healthy, successful life.
Great. Your timing is impeccable again. You're going to lead me into the next question, which is, as a nationally recognized program, Second Base, the Chamber's been a huge supporter, and of course we've seen great success in that it provides those pathways for students to learn valuable skills that lead to future careers. So how would you propose as a school board member to expand the program to reach more students, right? Thinking about how do we get more students involved in that and on the right track. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, of course, is outreach, making sure that we reach out to the communities that haven't been served before. And, I'm an old-fashioned person, so, tabling has always been something that, as someone who has tabled a lot, can be sometimes tiring, but it works. You get out there into the community, you show them what we have, and get people excited and interested in what we have to offer. And that's what we have to do. And as a school board member and representative, I would want to make sure that, my area is those opportunities are accessible to them.
Great. Candidate Parker.
I agree. We need to expand our engagement. No question about that. But we need to use our resources that we have, use our partners that are in the community to connect with the families that we're trying to get a hold of, that we want to introduce to these programs, because they are special programs and provide opportunity for students. Let's meet the community where there is. District 2 is a working community. We have a lot going on, and we shouldn't expect that our families can be engaged all the time. We need somebody that can work with our partners, our businesses, to meet the families where they're at, meet them in the schools, meet them with the resources that they're using on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we're bringing the information to them and that we're affording their families an opportunity to get introduced and bring it to them in a positive way.
Great, thank you. Candidate Venegas.
So our businesses and our schools serve the same community, and I think that it is important to, one, make sure that our businesses feel heard when it comes to the issues that are in our schools, and they feel empowered to help and support. But I was smiling when you asked the question, because we can ask our students. We have bright minds, and they're ready to go, and they're hungry for the world, and I believe that the answer lives in them. And making sure that they feel heard, making sure that we create platforms for them to express themselves, we'll be able to find exactly where we need to go next.
Great. Staying on this topic, we've had great success with career technical education within the school district. Specifically, I can think of the Bright Culinary Program. So as you guys think about your role, what areas do you believe are needed to support the future workforce, and what other CTA programs might you think that are necessary or needed to reach the future workforce? We'll start with you, Candidate Parker.
Thank you. What Cheryl is doing with the program at the Culinary Academy is incredible. They care so much, and they're building incredible resources for our culinary arts, for our urban agriculture, for our food scene. I think that those types of programs are a tremendous asset. We can further improve those. It's all about what are the next resources or outlets that we're looking at. COVID has made it very clear that there's certain industries that have opportunities for growth, and we need to look at those areas and what the future holds for professions, and figure out how do we start to recruit those types of businesses to come into our school system to make sure that we're exposing our students to those type of opportunities. I think that's our next step in working on expanding our CTE program.
Great. Candidate Venegas.
So, funny enough, I provide a couple of courses when it comes to CT through my small business, and we focus on mental health. It has such a stigma around it, and there's so many careers, and there's such a need around this aspect of life. And that would be something that I'd love to see, whether it's fitness, whether it's wellness, nutrition. Taking care of self is extremely important, and there's a great need. Second would be entrepreneurship. It is clear that especially during COVID, we need solution-based people. We need people that can have vision, and these students, I believe they're in a time in their life when they can be very creative. They have imagination, they have passion, and if we can just drive that, I believe that, that's what I would really emphasize is entrepreneurship and mental health.
Great. Candidate Theracle.
I think we have to work with our local community college district, the Los Rios Community College District. Our community college system does great with our trade programs. They have nursing, they have EMT, and I think that's something, and those are really popular programs that I think we could probably bring to our arts district alone. Working with already present firefighters and police in their academies, and then working with our trades to expand on apprenticeships and the different kinds of trades that there are. People think it's just construction. There are lots of other kinds of trades that people could specialize in and build successful careers in.
Many of you have mentioned Measure Z, which is on the November ballot. As you all know, the school board placed a $150 million in general obligation bonds for school facility improvements, construction, and of course modernization. Specifically, do you support Measure Z? We'll start with you, Candidate Venegas.
Is it just a yes, no, or?
If you want to give a description, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, you've got a minute.
The answer is yes, and being that I like to be the voice for Area 2. Like many of my neighbors, I'm not in politics. Before this, I was just Coach Al. And the idea of really educating our neighbors and informing them of how important this measure is has really excited a lot of people, and I'm thankful and proud to stand behind Measure Z.
Great, thank you. Candidate Theracle.
I support Measure Z. Being a student when I was a student of our district, even then I knew that our facilities definitely needed work on it. We needed to upgrade our buildings and provide the resources needed to make sure that all of our students in our district receive the best education possible. And through Measure Z, we can. I was a big visual and performing arts student in high school, and if this measure is going to help provide better education, especially for our arts, to students, I support that 100%. The arts did a lot for me, and I know that it could do a lot for students in our district.
Great, thank you. Candidate Parker.
I do support Measure Z, and I do because it's really about community priorities. Measure Z and the robust conversation that led up to this measure really reflects what the community needs are. You look at what's in the measure and what is in our plans, it outlines very clear things that we need at Westfield Village. Starting in Q1 of 2021, there's investments that we need to start making into our facilities. Same thing for Elkhorn Village. It really reflects the tremendous amount of of need for those schools for our neighborhood, especially in Area 2. And it helps our entire city grow as a whole. What investments will happen from the visual arts and performing arts program to just supporting our continued growth, to support what our trajectory looks like as West Sacramento. I think it's really important for our future.
Great. So given that all three of you support Measure Z and realizing that you're going to get an influx of some of these dollars, how would you prioritize certain projects, certain maybe it's an individual campus, or what qualifications would you consider as you're working through those priorities on the school board? We'll start with you, candidate Theracle.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest factor would be equity. Who needs it most, but also looking at our current budget. We have to see where our monies are going. I took a look at our district budget, and I have to say it's very summed up together. I would love to see it disaggregated by schools and by district, especially now that we do have single-member districts. See where our money is currently going, where we need additional support, what facilities are in the most need of repairs. I think that we also have to look at what we currently aren't doing for our school district, right? We've talked about an auditorium for our schools for the longest time now, since I was a student at River City High School. How can we get that done? We have to look at these long-term projects that have been put on hold for so long and see what we can do to move them forward.
Great. Candidate Parker.
I had an opportunity recently to take a tour of Westfield Village with the principal, and you see the need. We could talk about individual investments like the fact that they have over 30 portable classrooms that are now permanent, and what the need is to bring those investments so we're providing a quality learning environment. There's individual projects that we need to account for and that we need to invest in. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure we have a superintendent that we're holding accountable for implementing what we have outlined in the facility master plan in the timeline that we said we had. So we need to make sure we're being very transparent with the community, looking at what investments we said, and making sure that we're holding our administration, ourselves accountable, our community accountable to provide and take care of those investments.
Great. Candidate Venegas.
The beautiful part about this campaign is I have no political agenda, and it's really about the need. I've said it before, is where we put our money is where we value and what we really hold to be our school district. So as we continue to move forward, I can say that personally, again, I've walked the school campuses. I can see a clear need, but we would really focus on bringing the resources like technology and really just these buildings being outdated, making sure that our children feel that we're investing in them. We want them to be invested in their education. I think it's time that they feel that we are invested as well.
Great job. I've got one final question, and then we'll move into closing statements. But this one is a tough one, and many of you have already mentioned this this evening. Given the national discussion around inclusion and respecting diversity, how will you ensure as a board member that students are reached equitably? And as a follow-up to that, what resources do you think are needed for you in order to do that job, and in order for our teachers and our principals and all of our staff to do that as well? We will start with you, candidate Parker.
Awesome. Thank you. To me, equity isn't about equality and providing the same thing across the board. It's making sure that those populations and families that need more attention, we're providing that for them. Making sure that we're looking at how do we support whatever the need is that they have, be it from an emotional support, be it early child care, making sure that we're investing in our pre-K programs and after-school programs, and making sure that we are hearing from them on what their need is and going out into the community and being that resource. I think how we do that is making sure we're leaning on with our teachers, with our support staff, and supporting our teachers by giving them additional support staff, making sure that they have the tools, the resources to be able to handle whatever problem and issue or surrounding comes to them.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Venegas.
In my time of working with schools, it's been 12 years, and I've worked across districts in California. And something that I see time and time again is, and I believe here in West Sacramento, we have the resources and we have the passion to provide equitable campuses. I would start with our classified staff. Making sure that they know that they matter, making sure that they know that they are mentors, because our culture lives in between the lines. It lives at recess. It lives on the bus. It lives on the crosswalk. And this is how we can reach. Many times a mentor is a custodian. Someone that a child trusts is their bus driver. So not overlooking them, but including them in our trainings and allowing them to have a voice. And really that's where I would believe that we start for an equitable approach.
Great, thank you. Candidate Theracle.
Absolutely. We have to support the work that our teachers do, the work that our classifieds do, and absolutely support the family home environment altogether. And I think that when I think about how best to support those, we have to think about, what's currently going on right now, right? We have Measure Z happening. I support that. That will give us the resources needed to provide equity for our most disproportionately impacted students and the communities in most need. I think about Prop 15, the Schools and Communities First initiative. That will reclaim up to $12 billion for state funding throughout the entire state. And I believe our district is projected to get about $5 million annually in increased funding from that proposition itself. The resources are out there. The money and the possibilities are out there. We just have to utilize it to the best of our ability. I would be the youngest student and youngest school board member, and I would be the only LGBTQ member. And I know that that perspective will help me bring an equity-focused lens to our community.
Great. Well, that concludes our questions, and I'm going to ask each of you to give closing remarks. You will have a minute and a half, and we'll start backwards since we went forward, and we'll start with you, Candidate Parker.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for the West Sac Chamber and those that have tuned in. I'm sure we have an incredible crowd out there, and probably a lot more than the mayor debate. And thank you to the candidates. I am who I am because of teachers and the impact that they had on me. One teacher in specific is why I want to help communities, why I've lend myself to public service, to supporting our neighborhoods, to making sure that we are heard. It's so important that we have a representative that knows how to work through very complex issues, very challenging discussions at the board level, and is able to represent the needs of what our community has. And that's what I am, and I am able to do. I think what we need from a school is to support our teachers, support our staff, support our facilities, making sure that we have somebody in the seat that is able to provide those investments, but look at the facility, but look at who we are as a community. How do we support our surrounding body? How do we make sure that we're uplifting our neighborhood and those that live in it? And making sure that we are supporting everyone that is here. I would love to get to know every one of you. My cell phone number is 916-768-9184. Call me. This is very formal. I'm a little nervous. I would love to have a chat, and I would love to earn your support with the seat here on Area 2.
Great, thank you. Candidate Theracle.
Yeah, thank you again to the West Sac Chamber of Commerce for putting this event together. I really appreciate it. When I first got asked, why I decided to run or why I'm running, I've always been an advocate for our education system, making sure that it does right by our students and it does what it's supposed to, deliver the best possible education and gets them to either a degree program or a trade program, whatever they want to do in their lives. And I will always fight for that. There's definitely other ways to do that as well besides serving on this board, but my experience working in higher education, understanding what needs to happen in order to support student success, understanding what equity is. My experience makes me the best candidate for this position. It's prepared me for this position. This is not just Area 2, my community. This is my home. I've lived here for 16 years. I'm an alumna of our school district, and I care deeply about what's happening in my community and how best I can help my fellow neighbors. I hope I have earned your vote today. I hope that I can, if not, you reach out to me and I can earn your vote. Please reach out to me on my website, www.danny4 wusd.com to learn more about me and my priorities. I'm more than happy to chat. I also have a Facebook page, and I hope that I get your support this election.
Great. And lastly, candidate Venegas.
Again, I want to thank the universe and thank just everybody who was hanging on. Thank you all for being patient. Know that as I stand here with a tie, I am not forgetting about you guys. I really am passionate about what we're doing. I want to thank the candidates for stepping up, and I've reached out to them personally and let them know that pay attention to who's running in your local elections, because it's not about just November 3rd, it's about November 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's about who is still in the community as a resource. So know that whether or not you vote for me or you don't, you can still call me Coach Al, and I'm still your neighbor. It is about coming together, and it is about working together and truly find alignment in our gifts, truly find empowerment in our passion, and be able to share our story so that we can continue to write the history of West Sacramento together. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Well, I want to thank each of you for being here tonight. I personally am inspired that each of you have stepped up to the plate, as you just noted, candidate Venegas, to serve. And so I want to thank you for your thoughtful answers and for being a part of this. I know you've given a lot for our viewers to think about, so thank you very much. For our viewers at home, we will be taking a short break and transitioning as we move into Washington Unified School District's Area 3. So we ask you to take a quick break with us and join us back here on Facebook Live at 5:30. We'll see you then.